You must be crazy if you think you're going to perfect the Pokedex. I know I am, because I'm trying to perfect mine. So why are we all crazy for doing this? Well, I think I know why, and I also have some tips to keep our sanities in check. I even have a tip that I'm sure no one has mentioned yet. If you're casually playing Legends Arceus, you might have noticed that there are a couple of objectives in the game for you to complete. Near the end of the game, you'll start to see some of the bigger, more broad objectives, some might call the endgame. Completing the Pokedex is a pretty daunting task since you would have to catch every single Pokemon in Legends Arceus. For every Pokemon that is in the game, there is a list of research tasks to complete too. Working through those research tasks to get every single entry to research level 10 is no small feat either, but getting every single Pokemon's Pokedex entry to a perfect research level is a whole different beast to complete. What's the point in all this? Well, completing the Pokedex is one of the requirements to complete the story of the game. If you're a shiny hunter, or someone who wants to work towards another milestone, getting research level 10 for every Pokedex entry rewards you with a shiny charm, a key item that increases the chance of a shiny Pokemon to appear. If you manage to perfect every Pokemon's research level, the big grand prize you get is a nice certificate of accomplishment from an uncle that works at Nintendo. Just kidding. While it would be cool to have an uncle working at Nintendo or getting a fancy piece of paper, the game doesn't really have a reward for this huge accomplishment. The only thing that gets affected is the increased odds of encountering a shiny Pokemon. Other than that, you get the satisfaction of a nice stamp on every Pokemon and a pat on the back from everybody. So why am I doing this? Personally, I really enjoy the game and might put it up there with my top favorite Pokemon game. I'm also the type of player to complete everything. Currently, I am nowhere close to getting this finished, but I've been enjoying the journey so far. If you're a completionist like me, or just like playing the game, hit the like button and leave a comment below on why you like the game. I really like catching Pokemon in this game. If you're new to the game, I highly recommend you play the game how you want to first. Don't let some random Joe Schmo dictate how to play this game the correct way, or the most optimal way. Enjoy the game first. It's your game and your playthrough. As you naturally play the game, you'll probably have lots of different Pokemon and a bunch of these tasks completed as well. If you pull up the Pokedex by pressing down on the D-pad, you can open a screen showing all the Pokemon you've registered or seen. Press A to switch over to the Research Task tab, and you can see all the different tasks a Pokemon will have to increase their research level. You'll notice some similar tasks repeated throughout the Pokedex, like number caught, but you'll also see some request-specific ones, such as Bidoof's investigated the Bidoof that bothered the village. Thankfully, there aren't very many request-specific tasks to worry about. Some Pokemon will have a whole page full of tasks, and some will have a few, but you should have a good chunk completed as you play through the game naturally. Once you start getting into the nitty-gritty aspect of researching all of these Pokemon, there are some things that could help you along the way. A nice little feature you can use is checking the Pokedex entry for the Pokemon you're about to encounter in the wild. All you have to do is hold down ZL to focus on the Pokemon and press down on the D-pad to pull up that specific Pokemon's Pokedex entry. From there, you can switch over to the Research Task tab and see what kind of tasks you can work on. This is a really quick and easy way to check what you have left or what you need to work on if you're out and about in the wild. If you're a more detail-oriented type player, there are some great resources out there for spreadsheets like the ones I have linked below in the description. The first big category I want to get into is catching related research tasks. One of the easiest tasks to complete is number caught. Just simply catch that Pokemon however many times it is needed to complete that task. Some Pokemon don't like to show up a lot. Thankfully, after the Daybreak update, we can use massive mass outbreaks to get better access to rarer Pokemon, and use the outbreaks to help complete other research tasks. If you find an alpha Pokemon, catching one of those will count for the alpha specimens task and heavy specimens task for different Pokemon. For light specimen, you're kind of on your own for that one, but if you have friends, you can trade Pokemon with each other, and upon receiving the Pokemon, your research task will update for the corresponding Pokemon. This is very helpful if you're having trouble with light, heavy, or alpha specimen related tasks. Some Pokemon have tasks that require you to catch them during a specific time of day. A lot of times, they'll spawn on that time of day, but a few like Zubat will have a task for being caught during daylight, but mostly spawn at night. You can let the game naturally pass time for those, or try resting at a camp for a time change. The worst one for me was Yanma's caught in the evening. For the longest time, I kept catching them at night, not realizing that I needed to catch them when the sun was setting for those captures to count for that task. I totally knew what I was doing. The hardest catching related task will probably be the caught without being spotted. The best ball to use for this task is going to be the jet ball. So far, the only way to obtain more jet balls is to craft them or get lucky with Ginter if he has a bundle in stock. The trick with this task is you'll need to be far enough away from a Pokemon to not see you, but not too far away where you end up bonking their head and making them angry. Another thing you'll have to be careful about is if the bubble or exclamation point appears above the Pokemon's head. A lot of times, catching them will not count towards the task. You really have to be sneaky to successfully complete this task. If you're having trouble with a Pokemon like Blissey, you can fly away after it breaks out of the ball and come back to it to try catching it again without being spotted. There is another hard catching related task too, and that is the caught while sleeping task. This task will only be completed if you're out in the overworld and catch a sleeping Pokemon that is not in battle. Unfortunately, there's not a way that I know of to make a wild Pokemon sleep other than stalking it off into the distance and waiting for it to go to sleep. The best method I can think of is using a mass outbreak for a better chance of having one of the Pokemon fall asleep on you. Another tip you can use to help with your number caught task is to utilize evolutions. For some reason, when you evolve a Pokemon, you'll actually update multiple tasks at once. So let's say you evolve your Pichu into a Pikachu. For Pichu, the task for number evolved will update, and for Pikachu, the task for number evolved and number caught will update. Bonus points if your Pichu was a light specimen, because it will actually update Pikachu's light specimen task too. This is especially helpful for some of those harder to get Pokemon like Magnemite, so you can catch just 15 of them to evolve all the way up to Magnezone, and finish the number caught task from Magnezone. This should cover a lot of the catching related tasks in the game, but I got more tips coming up, including probably my best tip that I'll tell you later on in the video. The next big category I want to get into is battling related research tasks. Again, the easiest task will be the number defeated task for a lot of Pokemon. Some Pokemon will have a task to defeat them with a specific move type. The best approach you can go about these is to grab a well-rounded team with moves that cover all the types and just go ham. Arceus is a really good addition to the team if you let it hold the Legend Plate. Judgment will change its type to be super effective against the opposing Pokemon, and a lot of times there is a task related to defeating that Pokemon with a specific type. Don't forget you can also use mass outbreaks to make the process a lot easier. Another task you'll see for some Pokemon is to use a specific move or moves. They probably will have tasks to use Agile style or Strong style moves as well. You can knock out two birds with one stone by using a specific move and a certain style. For example, you can have Staraptor use a Strong style Brave Bird to progress through the Brave Bird task and Strong style task at the same time. If you want, you can stack a team full of the same Pokemon to grind out these moves. Or you can use PP restore items like Lepo Berries or Hoppo Berries. The best place to work on these types of tasks is at Horseshoe Plains and Obsidian Fieldlands. All the wild Pokemon are very low level to make things easy. You could also battle Magikarp as well in Obsidian Falls. If you clear out the area of wild Pokemon, you can go back to camp and rest to a different time of day to get a new batch of fresh meat. Speaking of Magikarp, did you know that there is a task that requires you to see Magikarp use Splash 100 times? If you want to recreate a glorious moment, you could send out a Magikarp against a Magikarp and watch them both use Splash for an eternity. Or you can use False Swipe or a status type move against a Magikarp to work on those Agile style or Strong style tasks. The only types of moves you might have trouble with are healing moves, since you can't use them unless your Pokemon lost some HP. One last thing before we move on, if you see a Pokemon use a specific move for a task outside of battle, that will actually count towards the task. It's not the most reliable way to see a Pokemon use a move, but at least it counts. The last category is more of an everything else kind of category. A lot of the tips relate to tasks you need to do out in the overworld, like feeding or stunning. Throwing food at Pokemon is a lot harder than it looks. I always try to throw my food a little bit away from the Pokemon so that I can walk over to the food and eat. What? Pokemon have to burn some calories too. Oh, and don't try to start a food fight and smack them with the food. If they do get mad, just walk away from the fight and come back when everyone is calm. Mass outbreaks can help a lot with this task since there are more Pokemon to feed, especially with Snorlax and Lickitung. Another overworld task we have to do for some Pokemon is startling them with a Scatterbang. It's a fairly simple task, but if you throw the Scatterbang too quickly, the game won't register the bang at all. You'll have to wait until the Pokemon stops running and calms itself down before you can scare them again. Instead of scaring some Pokemon, others need to be stunned. You can always throw poop, balls of mud at them, but the best item to use is sticky globs. If you're up against an alpha Pokemon like Alpha Garchomp, it will take 4 sticky globs to stun it the first time, and then it'll only take 2 sticky globs to stun it again and again. Plus, it just feels wrong throwing balls of mud at Pokemon. Like with the Scatterbang, you'll have to wait for the stunned Pokemon to be active again before you can stun them. A couple more things before we reach the end. You technically don't need Fion, Manaphy, Shaman, or Darkrai to complete the Pokedex, but if you are able to get them, more power to you. Rotom has a task that requires you to obtain all of its forms. This might take a while because you can only get these strange mechanical machines from Ginter, and they're always expensive, and he might not have them in stock when you need them to be. I might do a video on different ways to make lots of money in the future, so get subscribed if you want to tune in for that video. The worst task you might ever experience is going to be the leaping out of trees task. Some Pokemon only leap out of specific trees. Aipom only leaps out of 2 trees. Not only that, but it's also random every time you load into the map. So you might not even get a shaken tree needed for an Aipom to leap out of. The best advice I can give you is like the sleeping Pokemon task. Be patient. Last but not least, the final and probably the best tip I can give you is take your time. There's absolutely no rush for perfecting the Pokedex. I know Scarlet and Violet are just around the corner, but Legends Arceus will always be around if you want to take a break from things. Just remember that this is a long-term goal. If you are feeling burnt out from grinding out these tasks, take a break and do something else. Enjoy the road to the finish line. We all play Pokemon to make new experiences and have fun. As always, thank you for watching this video. If you want to see what else I've been up to, hit subscribe and follow me on my other socials. Thanks for stopping by and hope to see you soon.